If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Honestly, I'm going to talk about a little bit more of a serious subject tonight. And the reason why is I ended up in a whole entire conversation when I was at work in my break room about the subject. And because why we were overhearing a conversation between a man and his girlfriend. The man handled himself beautifully. He kept assuring her how much he loved her and da 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 da. Okay. And she was yelling and screaming at him at the other end, but he was not giving in to her yelling and screaming fit that she was having, her accusations, things like that. We all were like applauding him afterwards because being in toxic relationships is very hard. And a lot of more than not, there's a lot of people that's in toxic relationships, and sometimes people who are not naturally toxic people can become toxic and unintentionally, and so then they need to work on resolving those issues and then becoming better and improving in their attitudes and their ways. So I wanted to talk about it because that can be something that's close to people's heart. But I also want to make sure that you guys understand I'm not talking about my relationship or in any way reflecting on mine. I'm reflecting on things I've overheard and seen over time. And beginning, I'll be honest, I personally witnessed and heard about toxic relationships through my lifetime. My dad was not a witness, and my mother told me a story about my dad because she wanted to start going to the Kingdom Hall or going back to her church, and he refused to let her learn how to drive, which would have gave her the freedom to get back to the hall. So he, because of religious reasons, and we don't celebrate birthdays, so he tried to give her birthday money, and each year she would refuse it. This time she didn't turn it down because my dad refused to take her to help her get driving lessons. She took that money and got a neighbor friend, to help her out to go get her driver's license so that she could drive and get herself to meetings. It didn't end there. My dad tried to stop her from going to meetings. My brother actually had to jump on my dad's back and get his attention because he was trying to choke her to death because she was trying to go to the Kingdom Hall. That is an example of a toxic relationship. Am I right? So see, I'm not trying to go there and talk about anything personal, even though I've witnessed things personally. I've had friends, because it's also just, that's also discrimination against somebody's religion and somebody's beliefs. Okay, so it's not just a toxic relationship, it's also discrimination against their beliefs and against who they are as a person. Um, and I've had friends who has, because their husbands were different faith, Protestant, Catholic, Baptist, something like that, and they didn't like the fact that they were witnesses, so they thought they could get them to stop, and said, if you come back home, you won't be able to get in this house. They go ahead and go to the meeting anyway. And guess what? The husband changed, while they were at meeting, changed all the locks on them. They had to sleep in their car in the doghouse. And I remember this one sister, it happened to her like 3 different times. They eventually got a divorce. I wonder why. Toxic relationship, right? So let's talk about it just for a few minutes. First of all, I want to talk about, after I uncover the bullet points of what it is and signs of it, I'm going to talk about what it's like being in one and what it feels like, and for that person. I also want to talk about how a person can get through it, and if someone else falls for someone who's been in a toxic relationship, will they be able to handle being with that person? And what can you do? What can people do to help them if they're in a toxic relationship, to get them through it? Okay, so basically, a toxic person is, you feel like you're being manipulated, you're constantly confused, you feel you deserve an apology that you never receive. That happens a lot. They don't apologize. They say they don't remember what they said or did. When they actually do, they just don't want to admit it. Okay, you always have to defend yourself to this person. You never feel fully comfortable around them. Feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time because you don't know when they're going to explode at you, right? So You don't feel safe. That's not being comfortable around them. You have bad or non-existing communication. You feel neglected or exploited. You feel like you're lost yourself. So basically, that person is over time is so ingrained so many things and thoughts into your head that you feel like you're not yourself anymore. You've lost yourself. You don't know who you are anymore because of all of the drama and the toxicity that's in the relationship. So, judgment, not curiosity is not normal, and being judged all the time. You feel belittled or ashamed. They constantly are belittling you, tearing you down, saying mean things to you to make you feel bad about yourself. Um, so you don't receive empathy from them, and you play a dysfunctional role. You feel feelings of unworthlessness, like yeah, you don't feel like you deserve any better. You start they then because of the way they talk to you and make you feel, and the belittling will make you feel you are worthless, that you are nothing, that you don't deserve better. So why try to find something else? Why leave? Why separate? It's kind of like that's the way they got their chain to pull you in, because if you feel like you don't deserve better and you don't deserve anything better, then why are you going to try to leave? And why are you going to try to look for something else? You're not, because you feel worthless. You feel like nobody would want you. So why try? Right? Okay. Hostile atmosphere, constantly angry. That's never good. That's usually the ones that get physical. That you can't do anything right half the time. Maybe you, for a little bit, you're doing really good with stuff, and then all of a sudden, every little thing you do, that boom, was, you can't cook, you can't do this, you can't clean right, you look at this, you never clean this right, you never do this right, you never do that right. That is not good either. When you feel like you can't do anything right, it makes you want to give up on trying to do things that helps the relationship. Are brimming with envy. They're envious, maybe, of the attention that you get, envious of you helping others, trying to stop you from helping others, trying to keep you from being happy, especially when you finally find something that's your niche and your hobby that you love, and they try their hardest to make you give it up. And because they're jealous of the attention you might be getting from that hobby, or they're jealous, envious, because they only want you to help them and not other people. And so they don't like that you're helping other people, so then they try to stop you. Avoidance, addressing conflict head on. They will avoid it, like I said. You try to talk to them, they kind of halfway listen to you and ignore you, or they tell you don't even remember saying or doing anything. So basically making you feel like, why even address it, because they don't remember what they said or did. Always undermining you, like always telling you that you're not good enough, or why even try to do that, because you're not do this, you're not college trained, you're not this, you're not that, undermining you all the time, making you feel little. So gaslighting is part of that as well. But here's the thing. So what is it like to be in a mental or physically abusive relationship? Physically abusive, I've read up on it. It causes PTSD, which is something where if someone makes a person jumpy, they can't handle loud noises like fireworks, things like that. That usually happens in wars, but also happens in a physically threatening environment where somebody's constantly throwing things, hitting, smacking, throwing things, destroying them. To me, that is kind of an onset of physical. Even if they're not touching you, but they're constantly throwing and breaking your things that are special or important to you. And the noise and the screaming while they're doing it can cause PTSD. So that person who's been in that situation may be jumpy. So they may be easily scared, or nervous all the time because of dealing with that. Ones who've dealt with mental, it's harder. I feel it's harder, and because mental is, they constantly are saying belittling words. They're constantly downgrading you, making you feel worthless, making you feel small, like telling you you're ugly, telling you you're old and you're used up. Nobody wants you. Why even bother? You don't have to worry about somebody stalking you or doing this or that. You're ugly and you're old and used up. Nobody would want you. You're not good at that. Why are you even bothering? Nobody wants to see you do that or wants to do that with you. You're not good at it. Things like that. And you're ugly. Instead of saying you're pretty, you're beautiful, it's the opposite. It gets in here. And once you put something inside somebody's head and you're constantly barraging them with those things over time, let's say there's been people who's been in marriages for 25, 30, 40 years, it's been toxic. And if they've been dealing with that for that full 25, 30, 40 years, it's ingrained in their head so much so that the next person who comes along that's trying to undo all that can call them beautiful every single day for the rest of their life. And they probably will never believe you. That's how bad it is to undo something like that. So words are worse than physical. Okay? Physical is bad. This is physical. Okay? This is physical. But that cut, those bruises, 4 or 5 days, you won't even know she had those cuts or bruises. This, they live with for the rest of their lives. This is what their brain looks like. It's like they have bruises on their brain. And those never go away. It takes years. And maybe it'll never happen. So if the person changes and becomes better, they're going to have to always be patient with that person, because the person is always going to be on eggshells, always going to be worried they're going to backtrack. I'm never going to believe them when they say things. And it's going to take a lot of work to undo all that mental and emotional that they feel from all of that neglect. So it feels horrible because they have no confidence in themselves anymore. They're constantly second guessing everything they do, everything they say. They're constantly second guessing their relationships because they feel like nobody really loves them, nobody really cares about them. That person, they start dating another guy or girl. Oh, you're so handsome. They're not going to believe that girl that they're so handsome. They're not going to believe that guy that says they're beautiful because they think they're ugly. Yes, that can be undone, but you have to be patient and it takes time. Okay, so it's hard. You never feel you have any self-worth, and you never will feel like you'll deserve any better. You'll never feel like you're good enough for anybody. That if somebody is making you happy, you push them away as hard as you can because you feel like you don't deserve them and you don't deserve to be treated that way, because that is what's been ingrained in your head. That is what happens with men with verbal abuse. Mind games and verbal abuse is what it causes, and it's very toxic because it's hard to reverse. So what do you do to help somebody that's with that? Be a good listener. Continually reassuring them. When they start talking bad about themselves, stop them. Let them know that, hey, you are worth. You do deserve happiness. You do deserve this. You do deserve that. You are pretty. You are this. You are good at this. You should always do this because you're good at it. And, constantly reassure them, compliment them, but don't do it to the point that it's like robotic or feels like you're just doing it to be doing it. You can say it and then you don't really mean it. It has to have meaning behind it, and they have to feel that it has meaning behind it by the tone of your voice, by the way you write it, if you're doing it in text. things like that. You have to have meaning behind it. Say they're this. I think you're beautiful because of this. I think you're good at doing this because of this. I think, stuff like that, especially when you're texting them. Make sure they know constantly whenever they start downing themselves that no, you really aren't. You're totally opposite of how you feel about yourself, and continue to reassure them. The other thing you can do for somebody in that relationship, especially if they're trying to mend things because they see the person's changing, is be supportive of them. Let them vent to you, but remember that sometimes when they're mad and they're frustrated, they make a mountain out of a molehill. So meaning that it may be this small of a problem, but they make it sound like this big of a problem because they're mad or frustrated at the time about the situation. So think about that too. But be there for them. Be a good listener. Let them know that they can vent to you about it anytime they want. Reassure them that it doesn't bother you to talk to them about it. They need somebody they can trust and someone they can confide in, someone that they can open up to, that is not going to say, okay, we got to immediately fix this. That's not what they're looking for. They're not looking for you to jump into the middle of the relationship, in the middle of the situation, and find a way to fix it. They just want you to listen. And another thing is good is when you're in those relationships, like with us, we have a wonderful elder body, and we go to our elders, and we've gone to our elders before, and they're so loving and reassuring, and they really listen to you, listen to how you feel on both sides of the story. They don't just take your side or their side. They listen to both of you and how you're feeling about things, and just like going to marriage counseling. And do marriage counseling. Try that. Try going to elders if you're in my religion and witness like I am, and try and get help to work through those problems, because they want to help you. They want to be there for you. So that's how you can have someone that's there for you, is to go talk to people like that. And then if you've been in that situation before and you've learned how to go work around it and become better with the relationship, especially if you see they're trying to fix it, then tell them, give them advice. Well, I did this, X, Y, and Z, and it really seemed to help us. And we started making improvements. I've seen improvements in their attitude and my attitude, things like that. That's all another way you can help them. Be a good listener. If you see warning signs from them, they're quiet. A lot of times, if they're normally a bubbly, happy-go-lucky person and they're constantly quiet and they're around you, there's probably something going on at that point there's something toxic happening in that relationship at the moment, and that's why they're not opening up, and they pull themselves into this reclusive thing. Get them to open up. When there is somebody, I know with me, when I've had times when I've been having rough times, in my life, even when I was a kid, if somebody would notice that about me, that I was quiet, not talking to them like I normally would, texting them as much as I normally would, something like that. Back then we didn't text, but you know what I'm trying to say. Nowadays you would call it texting. And they would sit me down and say, hey, are you really okay? I know something's not right because you're not being yourself today. What's wrong? And do you want to talk about it? Do you need someone to talk to? You know what? I usually open up because I knew that person really genuinely cared about me. They wanted to listen to me. They didn't want to fix it, but they wanted to listen to me, and they wanted to be there for me. So just be there. You can encourage them to get help, to go to counseling, everything like that, but you can't force anybody to do any of that. They have to do it on their own. But let's say, they also say, like, toxic relationships, being in a toxic relationship with someone who's a constant cheater. Yeah, that's right. It is true. Because then there's no trust. There's always disloyalty issues. And Yeah, that's a reason to get rid of a relationship, right? But if that person has been in a toxic relationship for years and they're at the point where they can't take it anymore and they done do it one time, that's not being toxic. That's just being trying to get away. Because, like, in my religion, there has been people who've done that to get out of their marriages because they want it out, and adultery is the only way out. So they have done it. I'm not saying it's right, but when that person comes back, are you going to be mean to them? No, you're going to forgive them because he's forgiven them. And more than likely, if they've been in a bad relationship, he's already forgiven them. They just need to be punished for the acts. And he's waiting for them to come back. And he still loves them. So we need to still love them, right? So, that's not being toxic. Toxic is someone who sleeps around all the time, not you. That's a toxic relationship, okay? So, the thing is what if you meet somebody who has been in a toxic relationship for years? Maybe you meet them while they're still in it. Maybe you meet them and they've had it in their past, and they open up and they tell you about the toxic relationship because they feel like you should know what's going on, help understand them as a person better, because they know they're going to have their times and their moments when they're going to freak out on you. Maybe they'll feel like I said, like if you extremely are really good to them compared to what they've had, they're going to feel like that they're unworthy of your love and your attention that you're giving them, and they're going to pull back. And so, and they're also going to be afraid that you're going to become just like them, because sometimes maybe if they've been in that relationship, that person's probably told them, manipulatively, no one will treat you better. You'll never find anyone who will treat you better. That's a lie right there. But they will tell you, you're never going to find anyone out there that will treat you better than me. So they have that ingrained in them. And then they have that marker ingrained in them, and then they go, they said that to me, but then they did XYZ to me, and they did all these horrible things to make me feel the way they make me feel. And yet they said, so then they start a relationship, and that person is totally opposite. They feel safe with them, they feel scared with them, and everything. But then they're still holding back. And it's because after going through all that and being lied to in that relationship, they're looking at it like, yeah, maybe you're really good to me. Maybe I feel safe with you. Maybe, but one, I don't deserve you because I don't deserve to be treated this way. I don't deserve any better. And two, they're scared because, after being told that and then it turning out opposite, they're going to look at you and go, can I really trust you to treat me better? They count on you to be good to me. You raised your voice at them, you get irritated with them, and they can tell they're going to pull back. They're going to be a little nervous and gun shy, and it's going to be because of what they dealt with before. It's going to be because they're scared of having that all over again. Heck no. Do they want that again? No, they don't. And if you show anything that makes them feel like they might have to pull back or be afraid that that's going to happen again, they're probably going to run from you. And then even if not, they're still at first going to run from you for a while because, they don't feel like they deserve any better or deserve a really good relationship. And so they're going to run away and they're going to push away because they're like, I don't deserve this. Go find somebody else to be nice to. But they also are so scared that you're going to end up turning out to be just like them. And then they'll feel like, here I am stuck in another relationship where I'm being treated exactly the same or worse than what I was treated before. Because they always say the grass is not greener on the other side. Again, the grass is not greener on the other side. And if you're a Murphy's Law person like my family is, Yeah. So, so then you get afraid that, you know, this, I'm going to make this leap in this big, huge jump with this person. And then they're going to end up just as bad as them or worse. And then what am I going to do? Because, they're going to be scared. So you have to be, if you are pursuing somebody that's been in that kind of a situation or that kind of relationship, you have to be patient with them. You have to continue to reassure them. You have to prove to them that, yes, I know you feel safe with me, and you really can feel safe with me. I really probably will be that way for you. I am not hiding who I really am. I am who I am. I'm genuine. I'm who what you see is what you get. And you keep assuring them that you're always going to be good to them and always treat them well. Then eventually you'll win them over. So, but you have to be patient. You have to not get frustrated with them, and you have to continue to work and prove yourself. And if you're not willing to do that, you need to run the other way, because those kind of things, they take time, and you have to be willing to be patient and work with it. So, anyway, it's just something I felt should be addressed, especially after in the break room hearing that guy talking to that girl. And then about everyone in the break room started opening up about their toxic relationships, and I was just blown away. And everything spilled out with different ones who've been in different relationships that this happened in mine, this happened in mine, and that happened in mine. Like, wow. And so, I mean, we all, in one way or another, in different times, may have dealt with things like that in our relationships, and then they get better, and then sometimes they don't, and you have to leave the relationship. But we've all been there, and therefore, in some way, shape, or form in our lives, or we've seen someone that's been there. So whether you've been in it or you've been on the outside scene, and we can all do something to help each other to get through them and to deal with them and help to ground ourselves. If you're in a religion like mine, where the only thing you could do is separate or commit adultery, and you don't want to, and you're very loyal, you're not going to cheat. So therefore, guess what? You have to ground yourself. So that means find hobbies that make you happy and distract you, and do that hobby as much as possible. And if you're in a relationship like that, and focus on your friends and your family and things like that to distract you. Things that will help you and make you happy, keep you grounded, and things like that. That's what you do. And that's all I wanted to say about it. I mean, toxic relationships are awful, and I hope all of you find ways to make them better. And you can, and they can improve, and they can get better. With a lot of love, reassurance, and work on both parties, you can do it. It was just, we had a lesson, and they were talking about in the talk that about adultery, like if one commits it and they decide to stay together, that the marriage will never be the same. Well, I hate to say this, but if one party or the other party has either been physically or mentally abusive, your relationship is never going to be the same. You can mend it, but it's never going to be the same. It's not going to have the same happiness it used to have. It's just not going to be there. Especially the one who felt victimized is definitely going to need a lot more reassurance, and you're just going to have to work through those things if that's what you decide you want to do. Because it's never going to go away, and the relationship will definitely be scarred. So there you go. And if you want to pursue a relationship with somebody, remember patience, lots of reassurance, and lots of love. Eventually, you will win them over, but you have to be willing to work at it and to be patient with them and let them know how much you care about them and that you really are genuinely that type of person, and that you wouldn't hurt them like that, because you need to know that, because otherwise they're going to be afraid, because they don't want to be treated like that again. Who would? You know, who would? So, and for our friends, family, that want to get people through that know they're having a bad situation, like I said, good listener, just be there for them. And when you see they're not themselves, speak up to them and make them sit down and talk to you. Let them know that you really can tell they're not themselves, and be there for them. Constantly reassure them. Just like if you were trying to have even with a platonic relationship, reassuring them a lot helps them. And they need that. They need people who understand and will be there for them and reassure them. So whatever you do, keep moving, keep being healthy, don't ever give up. And just remember, I did this because of things I've heard of. And it's no reflection on my relationship at all. So anyway, have a wonderful night, everyone.